What's going on, everybody? It's Sasha, your licensed real estate market expert here in Charlotte. It is the first Thursday of the month. Last Thursday was Halloween, and I almost wanted to go live then. And yeah, so now we are here, but I'm happy to be back. I guess I can share it now because I probably won't upload this for another couple days, but my wife and I are closing on our house tomorrow, Friday the 8th. Honestly, we couldn't be more excited. Same advice that I give to all of you in regards to if you're in the process of looking for a home is just having all your ducks in a row. So, my wife and I, we got pre-approved. I've been favoriting houses. I've been looking at certain houses here and there. I wanted something a little bit more unique for my, personal taste and things like that. And sure enough, one of the houses that I favorited, I've been keeping an eye on it. Every single day I go on my favorites list, and they did a huge price drop. And I saw the price drop at 8 or 9 at night. And I didn't want to show my wife this house at first because the price was higher than I was wanting to pay due to mortgage, and I just didn't want to pay that much. But they ended up doing a $75,000 price drop. And I showed it to her. The next morning, we went to look at it at 8 a.m. We had the offer in by noon. So super excited about it. It needs a good amount of work. So I've had contractors come in. Tomorrow I got meeting with some contractors and some specialists and things like that. But yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully we can be moved in by the first or second week of December, which is going to be an interesting time, due to the holidays. But in any case, I'm super excited about it. Our townhouse is going to be a rental, probably January 1st or whatever the case is. But yeah, I'm excited. Funny enough, when you're a realtor buying your own house, I just had the agent just never communicated with me. It was very funny. The house, I bought it as is, so I didn't ask for any repairs or anything like that. So really nothing, but it was definitely strange buying your own house when I've helped so many people buy and sell their houses. So doing it for yourself is just, it was odd to me. Sending my wife paperwork to sign and having to explain to her all this stuff in detail. And I'm a person that puts the right people around me. So my attorneys, my lenders, my contractors, I've been working with them for so long that I trust them. So whatever they sent me, I just signed, and obviously I've been seeing all this paperwork, but it was just funny because my wife was like, well, what's this? What am I signing? I'm just relax, just sign it. Come on, but certain things I did have to explain to her and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just kind of an interesting process, but I could not be more excited. Some of the best news kind of that I have in regards to that is our appraisal came in at $65,000 above what we actually got the house for. So after renovation, it's going to be looking really good, which I'm super excited about. And some of you thinking maybe, Sasha, you're a realtor, you have access to things I don't have or something like that. This house was on the market after the price drop. They did have multiple offers. There was 4 offers, including ours. So the offer I submitted, I actually ended up upping it, and I ended up upping the due diligence as well to get the house. And luckily we got the house. So there's a lot of stuff like this out there. There's a house in my now old neighborhood that popped up on the market in the low 400s, and the sellers were offering $15,000 in flooring and paint concessions. It was an absolute steal. I sent it to one of my investors. They didn't want to move forward with it, but all of the houses in my neighborhood, they're going in the high 4s. When I say high 4s, I'm talking 490 plus. A lot of them are going in that 525 range, some even higher, but realistically speaking, they're worth around 550 or so on the high end with really nice finishes. And I sent it to one of my investors, and they don't want to go for it, but this house sat on the market for 10 days or so. It was price perfect. The seller gave concessions. I know, so a lot of this stuff is out there, and a lot of this stuff is out there more and more. I'm not saying I'm finding really good deals every single week, but every 2 to 3 weeks or so, a house pops up that's in a really good neighborhood, that's priced really well. And a lot of people don't know these kind of nooks and crannies of the areas in Charlotte like I do. So when they pop up, I'm like, I start sending it to people right away. And one thing I want to start doing on my Instagram is kind of showing you guys these houses. There's a house right now in Mountain Brook. I believe it hits the market tomorrow, Friday the 8th of November, listed at $700,000. It is outdated, but that neighborhood has multi-million-dollar homes. That $700,000 house, if somebody was to go into it and spend about $150,000 to $200,000 on some really good high-end finishes, you're looking at being all in for $900,000, and I can almost guarantee you that house would sell at minimum, and I'm being very modest here, at minimum for 1.1 or 1.2. Potentially you can go higher than that, because a lot of people in this market, they pay premium for updates to a house. A lot of people don't want to put the work into a house. I can't tell you how many houses that I've looked at where if the house is painted yellow, somebody will walk in and they just can't envision it kind of that different paint color, you know? So it's just one of those things. Like I said, every 2 to 3 weeks, realistically, I'm seeing like houses that are, you know, priced really well and things like that, and that are being slept on. But in that regard, looks like we got 6 people on, guys. Ask me any and all questions. I'm here for you. I want to answer anything I possibly can. Not going to talk about the election, which thank God that's over. I got the amount of text messages I got was absolutely insane. And daylight savings is here, so it's pitch black outside, as you can see behind me. Now, really quick, the market watch for this week. This is a quick 7-day rundown of what's happening in the real estate market. So in the last 7 days, right now, coming soon listings. These are houses that are going to be listed within the coming days and or the coming week. 250. New listings, 1,335. Price increases, 157. Price decreases, 1,327. Back on market, 311. That means if a house accepted an offer, something falls through, the house comes back to the market. Temporarily off market, 155. Now, diving into kind of temporarily off the market, I've seen lately in the last couple of months, I've seen somebody, for example, list their house for $600,000. Then somebody else with a similar home in the neighborhood ends up listing theirs for like $525. And that seller that had theirs at $600, they just take their house off the market. They withdraw it. Maybe they change their mind as far as when they want to sell it and things like that. But I am seeing a decent amount of temporarily off the market and withdrawns. You never know the reason behind that, but a couple of these neighborhoods and things like that I've seen, usually it's like somebody else in the neighborhood having like a really strong price, and they're like, well, I don't want to compete with that person. I'm just going to take mine off the market for a month or two or even next year and see what happens. Under contract plus under contract no show, 750 and 400, what is that? 1150. Withdrawn, same thing. Closed, 1,219. Expired, 346. Meaning 346 houses sat on the market long enough to where the contract with the real estate agent expired, and obviously the house didn't sell. So really interesting. When I re-upload this, I'm going to put this screenshot up here. But all in all, again, it's just it's interesting to see these stats, especially with the amount of houses doing the price reduction, which it's becoming be a lot more common. I was talking to somebody today, they were asking me about the market, and one of the things that I said was a lot of sellers still haven't grasped that we're not in the same market. So you're seeing a lot of people double down on price. They still want the really high price. That's why you're seeing a lot of these price decreases happen. They list it high, and then, you know, a couple weeks, obviously always depending on activity, they lower it. The longer it sits, they lower it. So we're seeing a lot of that stuff happen, you know, so it's relatively interesting. Looking for a house in Indian Trail area, looking to stay below 330 and would avoid an HOA if possible. Dario, it's definitely possible to do. It's just, you know, I get asked so much in regards to HOAs because a lot of people relocating here, they're just not used to the HOA situation. But I mean, 80+%, maybe even 90% of communities here have an HOA. Some are stricter than others. There's some that are super lax that they just don't do too much. And then there's other ones that are kind of, super involved. But, I'll be honest with you, as far as like a 330 price in Indian Trail is still it's a very desirable area. It's definitely tough, but it's not impossible. I would definitely take a look, expand your price range to maybe 350 to 360. And some of these houses that are in the area that have been sitting for a long time, you'd be surprised if you fire off an offer for a house that's listed at 350 or 360. There might be a good chance that you can get that house, at that price. But it all depends on what you're looking for. But I appreciate even Fort Mill or Tega K. Tega K, to be honest with you, is going to be a little bit tougher unless you're okay with the house doing some work. Fort Mill, you got a better chance in Fort Mill. With Fort Mill being so big and everything like that, you got a lot more opportunities in Fort Mill. But I'll be honest with you, at the 330 price point, you're going to have a little bit limited options. But again, it's not something that's uncommon. You can definitely do it and really shouldn't be in too much of an issue for you, so to say. Looking for a house. Okay, we got that one. You think the interest rates are going to continue to drop? So right today, the Federal Reserve said they're going to take down the interest rates by a quarter point, so 0.25%. Not always does the Fed's cutting the rate have an immediate effect on the current interest rates. Last time when they did the rate cut, everybody was screaming, oh, they cut it 0.5%, half a point or whatever. Interest rates stayed good for about 2 to 3 weeks. And after that 2 to 3 week period, they shot back up. So now you're looking at roughly 7%, depending on down payment, credit score, and things like that. And now with the election over, it seems like people are really optimistic. So the interest rates could come down, and a lot of people definitely are optimistic kind of about that happening. They said they're hoping for the interest rates in mid 2025 to be about 5.5%. And according to some recent data that came out, that 5.5% is like the magic number for interest rates. At 5.5%, buyers are saying, hey, at 5.5, I'm going to get back into the market. I'm going to start looking. And also, more importantly, at 5.5%, sellers are saying, hey, this is the magic number. Once we start to get around there, I'm going to get off the sideline. I'm going to feel a lot more comfortable selling my house. So, we should see that coming. Do you still see houses sold over asking price in Charlotte, and what percentage? Yes. Like I said before, a lot of the unique houses that are coming on the market, the ones that are fully renovated, that are nice, that are move-in condition, I'm still seeing multiple offers. Now, am I seeing multiple offers, 10? I'm seeing 10. But am I seeing them 20, 30, 50 plus thousand? Not as much, but it still does happen. There's really no percentage, I can kind of put on how much over they're going. Potato, do you still see houses sold over asking price? What makes them stand out? So yes, what I just said, what typically makes them stand out is honestly just being move-in ready and having updates. People will pay a premium for a house that has a new kitchen, that has new bathrooms, fully painted, it has nice floors, the roof has been replaced in the last 5 to 10 years, it has a nice backyard that's, usable, AC is, 5, 10 years old, things like that, like the big stuff, the major systems. A lot of the houses that are sitting, they're a little bit outdated. Obviously, some of them can be overpriced, but for the most part, it's kind of those unique ones. So for my house that we're closing on tomorrow, I went over the asking price because I wanted it. And it needs work, but for me, it was just something unique, and I wanted something unique. So that's exactly why I went over the asking price. Are you still seeing the sellers typically cover closing costs? Same thing with the multiple offers, it varies. If you want a seller to cover your closing costs, it's gonna more than likely have to be a house that's been on the market for a little while. Closing costs on average can be anywhere from 1.5 to 3% of the purchase price. So it's not like a small thing where it's like, hey, here's $5,000 and you kind of go on your way. So typically, yes, I'm seeing it. I've gotten a couple closing costs covered, but like I said, a lot of those houses that I was able to do that for were sitting on the market for 30 plus days. So it all depends. You know, if a house hits the market tomorrow and you kind of go after it, it's going to be very tough to negotiate price and or, you know, having the seller pay closing costs when it's that new to the market because they still haven't tested the market out, you know, quite yet. But again, you know, it's such a unique time because there's no blanket answer for anything. You know, everything is kind of up in the air and there's so many different factors that kind of differentiate stuff. There was a house right across the street from Lansdowne subdivision, which is one of my favorite subdivisions in Charlotte. And it was a complete fixer-upper. It was over 3,000 square feet, listed at $730,000. It's still on the market now. I don't know the address off the top of my head. I favorited that house because I wanted to keep my eye on it, because if it would have got down to like a reasonable price, like a 650 or something, I probably would have went to, you know, try to buy it. But that house sat on the market for 5 days and it sold. And it's a 3,000 square foot plus house that needs full renovation. You know, not gut job, but it needs a full renovation. And that one sold super quick. But, you know, so you just honestly don't know. Some of the houses you think are going to sell super fast might end up sitting. And then some of the ones that, you know, you think are going to sit on the market for a long time due to a multitude of reasons can end up selling super fast. Are there any new and up-and-coming areas that you're starting to see people moving to in Charlotte? There's a ton. There's a ton of, you know, quote-unquote up-and-coming areas. University areas starting to get super popular. Denver blew up in these last couple of years to the point where for a lot of people that were able to buy there maybe 5 years ago, there's not a chance anymore because the prices went up $200,000-300,000. I can't list all of them off the top of my head because there's just so many, you know, and there's really not even kind of areas to be specific. There's certain neighborhoods that are just going through a big transition or are starting to see a lot of momentum, you know, areas like Wesley Heights and Wilmore and things like that. They were horrible areas 6, 7, 8 years ago. Now those areas have just exploded due to their proximity to South End, proximity to Uptown. And, you know, slowly those areas starting to change. You know, as when you went there 6 or 7 years ago, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 of the houses were dilapidated, and now it's different. Now 7, 8 out of 10 of the houses are super nice, and then 1 or 2 houses are kind of rough on that one street. So there's a ton of neighborhoods that have a lot of upside right now. It's going to continue, you know. We're still seeing so much activity here in Charlotte. I do think we're going to see a slowdown because we're seeing a lot more houses come to the market. We're seeing a lot of buyers have a lot more advantage. Sellers are having to compete with their neighbors because now there's not only 1 or 2 houses listed, you know, in the neighborhood. There's 5 to 10 plus, you know, depending on how big the neighborhood is. So a lot of things are changing. It's getting a lot better for buyers for the most part. And I think it'll continue to change unless we start to see the interest rates, you know, start coming down. But the migration hasn't slowed down here in Charlotte, so the real estate is still very much in demand. But to that same point, if you want up and coming, as far as the prices are still relatively low, you're gonna have to take a risk because more than likely it's not gonna be a well-established kind of area. You know, it's gonna take a couple people coming in there, and that's where you kind of make the equity. That's kind of where you make your money per se, is when you could be an early adopter, you know, in one of these areas. It's just like buying new construction in like the first phase. You know, when a neighborhood just opens up, all they have is the renderings and they tell you what it's going to be there, but you don't know the end product until you get the end product. So typically when people buy new construction, when you buy very early on in the first phase, you're going to get really good pricing. And, you know, by the time the neighborhood's complete, you can have a decent amount of equity in your house. So if you're trying to early adopt in some of these areas to take advantage of the appreciation of the potential equity, you're going to have to take some risks. You know, some of these areas, they could be a little uncomfortable, to be in for a little while until those areas start to change. So funny enough, just start looking for coffee shops opening around, start looking for breweries opening around, and typically those areas kind of start to grow. As ironic and kind of funny as it seems, it does happen. But I know you mentioned Fort Mill. I know you mentioned Indian Trail. Those areas are already super kind of popular, and I think they're going to continue to do very well in these next 10 years. Buy where builders are building. Yeah, that's true. That's true. As soon as you start to see like these big apartments come up, these 100 to 200 plus unit places, you can definitely tell there's a lot of activity. Sandeep, hi Sasha, will election results have any impact on house prices? Sandeep, I think you were on the last live. Was it you that had the home in Indian land that you were potentially planning on selling? I'm curious. Yes, I think the election results will have an effect. Yeah, I thought that was you. I do think the election results will have an effect. I've had two clients that I'm working with, and as we got closer to election, right around October, kind of both of my clients, not at the same time, but they were like, hey, we want to take a little bit of a break. We want to see how the election shakes out, which kind of do what you feel comfortable with. Now that the election's over, we're starting to see the stock market numbers and things are starting to change. So the election just happened, so it's very immediate. There's no real way to tell, but I do think things will change for a little bit of the better. I still personally believe we're going to see a correction. I just don't know when. We need a lot more inventory, but a lot of the houses are still getting bought up. A lot of people are still moving to Charlotte. We have so many different factors kind of taken into consideration kind of with what's going on. It's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. None of you guys were here at the beginning of the stream, but my wife and I, we're closing on our house tomorrow. So, I really don't care if we see a correction. Now, listen, if my house drops in value by a couple $100,000, I'm going to be upset. But at the end of the day, I don't care because I'm looking at everything long term. I'm looking at 10, 15, 20 years out, and I'm not selling any of the real estate that I do buy. So, but if you're somebody kind of in the market, just wait to see how it shakes out. But there's a lot of strong things heading towards that the market will be stable. But again, there's a couple different factors can kind of change all of that. I'm not going to say overnight, but things could definitely change. But our inventory is starting to build up, and we'll just have a lot more inventory coming. The market report is going to be out, I'm hoping, this coming Tuesday, which I believe is the 12th. So we'll see what the numbers are showing, but there's a lot of new listings coming. I don't remember the last time in these last 4 years where we were in the month of October and the month of November where I've opened up like my MLS portal and I've just seen like coming soon, coming soon, coming soon, coming soon. A lot of people are still listing their houses, whether as previous years, right now, especially November is when you start to see the slowdown because we have Thanksgiving coming right up. Typical closing is about 30 days or so. So people are like, oh, well, I'm traveling, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm just going to pick it up in December. But then you have Christmas. So a lot of people start to put things off up until January. But even though a real estate transaction isn't that complicated, you can easily do it through the holidays. The biggest thing is the banks, depending on how many days the banks are closed and just making sure you have a good lender that's helping you and can close on time even with the upcoming, days off and things like that. Like always, long-winded answer, but I hope it helped. So long story short, yes, I do believe that now that the election's over, I think we're going to move in a positive way, but time will tell. Time will tell. But I appreciate you guys watching and leave me some more questions. Like I said, I'm here for you for as long as you need me. Sandeep, when do you plan on listing that house in Indian land? There's a lot of activity in Indian land still, but I'm also seeing a lot more houses listed in Indian land, that's for sure. Here's a question that I got that I think is going to be helpful, for first-time home buyers and things like that. Sasha, my boyfriend and I want to buy a house next year. Around how much money should we have saved up? Okay, bunch of different factors to kind of go into it, but minimum down payment, if you're a veteran, you can get away with 0% down. If you're doing a conventional loan, you could probably do minimum 3% down payment. Other than that, you're going to have your closing costs, which typically are going to vary from 1.5 to 3% of the purchase price. This is going to vary depending on your lender, your attorney fees. Incorporated in the closing costs is going to be your property taxes, your insurance, your appraisal fees, and a lot of this stuff as well. Inspection, depending on the size of the home. Inspection, depending on your inspector as well, like a full home inspection, termite and radon inspection, you're probably looking at anywhere from $600 to about $800. Typically, if your house is over like 2,500 square feet, it's a little bit more of an upcharge, but I'd say a very safe range is going to be 600 to 800 for your full inspection, termite, and radon. If you want to do a survey, surveyors are a nightmare to deal with lately. But if you do want to get a survey, whoever you go to is going to give you a different price depending on how quickly they need to do it. I've seen surveys done as cheap as $500 or $600, and I've seen them as high as $1,000, depending on who you hire for a survey. And that's if you need one. So yeah, roughly 3% down payment. Calculate 1.5 to 3% for your, for all your closing costs, which includes like the title insurance and all that stuff. Then your home inspection, $600 to $800. And then if you want to get a survey, I would just say a safe number would be like $750 for a survey. Other than that, if there's any work that the house needs, if you plan on painting your house, if you plan on doing the floors, if you need to change the fixtures, but all that stuff is on you and not kind of necessary. But those are going to be kind of the bulk, essentially for your costs. So I hope that answers that question for you. And again, if you guys have additional questions or something like that, just contact me. It'll also depend on the property tax amount too as well, since that's some funds that they escrow, at closing. Lawson, can we get an update on Old Vamador building? Old Vamador building, it should be the one that's on 74. They just built a Starbucks and a Bojangles next to it. But the last update I heard on that building, they were supposed to, I heard something like they were going to demolish it. Then I heard they were going to restructure it. They were going to make, they were going to keep everything above the first floor office spaces. And then down there was supposed to be like a brewery and a couple retail shops. But I drive by that building all the time on 74, and I'm not seeing any progress. So I have no update. I have no update on the Vamador building. Last one I got was 2 years ago. So yeah, nothing much over there. Jarvis said on my last video that I made in regards to Huntersville, Huntersville was one of the top 5 places that people were moving to, that were relocating to North Carolina. And I mentioned something about the toll roads. I love the toll roads. I don't mind them at all. And unfortunately for the people that don't like toll roads, we have more coming on 485. I believe that was like an announcement that the city had made. But I think it's great. Pay a couple bucks and you save yourself whatever, 10, 15, 20 minutes in traffic. So we'll see how that stuff goes. But there's a lot of interesting stuff happening. I don't know if you guys watched the video on the Iron District, which is at the old Pipe and Foundry here in Charlotte, right next to Bank of America Stadium. I am super, super excited about that project as well. That project is going to be, it's going to be big. It's going to be big. I'm excited about it. We should see kind of the first phase of that being done within the first 2 years, but the entire project is going to take about 10. So we got a little bit of time, but the first phase is going to be, it's going to be exciting, and it's going to bring a little bit more buzz kind of over there to that area. I have a question. What if the wrong sales price is written in the MLS? For example, a house was sold for $397 and it appears on MLS for $497. Is it a problem for the seller or the buyer? A little bit of a complicated question. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a problem, but it does change kind of the comps in the neighborhood. If you can change that, if you can have a realtor kind of go in the MLS and get the correct price, that'll be best. Otherwise, it's just inaccurate info. The way Zillow works, the way their Zestimate and all that stuff is set up, they're okay, you know, as far as the Zestimate goes. But if the Zestimate for your house is 500,000 and somebody lists that same exact house for 600,000, the Zestimate is going to jump up. There's really no rhyme or reason. That's why I really don't trust that type of, that's why I really don't trust that stuff. You know, a lot of the technology that's kind of coming out now where it's like AI is going to value your home, it's complete BS. AI doesn't know when the roof was done, when the AC was done. They don't know the quality of craftsmanship that was done to the updates, to the kitchen, to the bathrooms, what type of floors. You're always going to need somebody to do a physical walkthrough. That's why insurance companies aren't going to use AI or anything like that to, hey, you know, this hurricane damaged your roof. They're not going to use AI. An adjuster needs to come out to look at the roof in person and make their final thing. So essentially the Zestimate is just like AI, you know. You do not know. And I see we have RJ Spain, you know, on here in the comments, and he's an appraiser and he'll tell you the Zestimate is complete BS. You know, you need to have somebody physically lay eyes on the house. RJ Spain, did you and your wife find a mid-century modern? No, sir, we did not. We found a house that we're closing on tomorrow, and it is a Victorian, which wasn't even in the cards for me. You guys know I wanted that mid-century modern, but this Victorian popped up. It was very unique, and it needs work. We're gonna get started on the work. We're closing tomorrow, and we're gonna start work next week. So I'm super excited about it. But yeah, I did not expect a Victorian home at all. I've talked about mid-century moderns for years, and yeah, but I love it, and we're super excited about it. But I appreciate you asking. RJ Spain, I would not be so kind in talking about Zillow. I'm not, you know, I don't really care for them. There's estimates, like I said, for the most part, they're inaccurate. Need somebody to lay eyes on it. Cleveland Cavaliers are number one. Yes, sir. Do you see places around the airport that has good schools and safe areas? It's tough. Around the airport, there's so much activity happening as far as new construction, but that's one of their biggest hurdles is the schools. Now, if you can get, which they're starting to do, like the Palisades, for example, over there in Steel Creek, once the Palisades was built, it's a master plan community. So you're talking about 1,000+ homes, and a new school had to be opened up in that area. So West Charlotte by the airport, with the amount of new construction that's happening over there, I have a feeling that we're gonna have a new school coming to that area relatively soon. You know, you have the vineyards at Lake Wiley, which is a ginormous master plan community. Some people are able to get into like the Belmont School District. So, you know, we'll see a lot more activity kind of happen over there. But I can almost guarantee you here in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see a new school pop up on the west side of Charlotte to help with all that new construction that's happening with all the people that are moving to that area. And if you notice, if you drive on 277 and then 74, like leaving Uptown heading towards the airport, a lot of apartments, you know, are starting to come up there. So that's just going to add to the more demand that, you know, they're going to need for the schools over there in that area. RJ, how have appraisals been for you? I'm very curious. A lot of my clients lately, in the last like 2 months, our appraisals have been coming in a decent amount over what we get the price for. Now, granted, some of these we negotiated the price on. So I've had some clients, I had one in South Carolina with $30,000 in equity. My home, thank God, we got some good equity on it. And yeah, but a lot of the appraisals that I've seen lately have been coming in over the listed price and or over the price that we got it for. So I typically expect an appraiser just, hey, you bought this house for 475. You typically appraise it for, as is value at listed price or something. But a lot of the transactions I've been doing recently, my clients have had 10, 15, 20 plus $1,000 in equity after the appraisal, which is great. I'm curious to what you're seeing out there, RJ. Two have not met contract price. Most are okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. I have a bunch of houses that I favorited, for myself personally, kind of in the areas. And typically when I see a house pop up, I just put it on my favorites list and I just watch what happens. And then, whatever, a month later, I check and see what it closed at. But I have seen a couple houses, closing roughly 15 to 20 plus $1,000 above, the listed price. So the multiple offers are still happening. Believe it or not, there are some houses here in Charlotte that are getting $100 plus $1,000 over asking price. But again, I beat this to death. They're relatively unique houses. The last one that I saw it was close to $150,000 above the listed price. That one was in Myers Park, super nice house. I want to say it was listed at like right around 1.5 and it ended up selling 150,000 over, which I completely understand. And if you're somebody, again, buying a house for the long term, hey, I plan on living here for the rest of my life, or I plan on living here for the next 10 to 20 years, do what you got to do if you absolutely love the house. If you're somebody looking at something that's relatively common, if you're in a big neighborhood that has 500 plus homes and it's newer construction, you could almost rest assured like clockwork, a very similar home will pop up in the next month with a similar layout and things like that. But if a home is unique in regards to the finishes, in regards to the exterior, in regards to the lot size, the backyard and things like that, go for it. Like I said, I don't know if you guys caught it, but I definitely offered over asking price for our house because we ended up being in a multiple offer situation once that happened. So relatively interesting. RJ Spain, prices have stabilized overall 110%. Prices have stabilized for the most part, but I'm still seeing some swings. In my neighborhood right now, we're living in the townhouse until we move, but my neighborhood, we have townhouses and single family homes. And I'm finding some steals out there. About every 2 to 3 weeks or so, something pops up that catches my eye and potentially that's underpriced. So there's opportunities out there. You just need to be kind of ready for them and kind of jump on them. I had one, I told you guys earlier in the video, it came up roughly $100,000 below what the comps are for a renovated house. I didn't go in the house, but based off what I looked at, it maybe needed $30,000 to $40,000 worth of work. And that house is under contract now, but whoever gets it, they got it at a steal. After they put 30 to 40K into it, they're gonna have, moderately $50,000 in equity, but I believe closer to $75,000 in equity, which is amazing, in this market. And you guys know this, right now is my favorite time. As soon as September rolls around, I love September through February. It's an amazing time because things tend to slow down for the most part. People put the home buying thing on pause. We tend to see prices, come down during that time as well. And it's a really good time to find some steals. And then as springtime and summertime come, things start to pick up. More buyers come out of the woodwork. More people start, looking to make the move due to kids' school and things like that in the summer. And obviously you do have more sellers kind of coming up in that time frame as well. So, but if you're able to, if your timeline matches up, it's good. But again, I think we're going to continue to see the new listings come up. And based off of that report, the sweet spot for buyers and sellers is that 5.5% interest rate. Once we see that, if it happens here, in the next 12 months, a lot more buyers will be off the sideline and a lot more sellers will be off the sideline because they'll feel a lot more comfortable selling their house and buying something else or selling their house and moving forward. But on the other end, there's still a lot of delusional sellers out here that are just pricing their houses ridiculous. And you're seeing some of those houses come off the market because somebody's listing their house for $750 and then their neighbor lists their house for $650, and they don't want to compete with the neighbor, so they take their house off the market. Maybe they change their mind. Maybe they're like, hey, I'm going to wait till January and then list it, or I'm going to wait till springtime and then list it. So it's interesting. It's literally a game of cat and mouse here in this market. You just need to keep your eyes and ears open, and I'm looking daily at everything. And starting, the goal was to buy a house in 2024. So tomorrow at noon, that will have, you know, been accomplished. And then moving forward, I want to buy a house every single year. So if you happen to have a house, 3-bedroom, at least 2.5 bath, under 2,000 square feet, reach out to me, call, text, or email me. I'll make you an offer on it as is, all that good stuff. So I want to start building my real estate investment portfolio coming here. And with that, you know, I'm making a lot of calls to sellers. I'm going to have some opportunities for my clients for some houses that are off market listings if they happen to be interested. You know, this year I've already done 2 off market deals, and we still got almost 2 months left in the year. I'm hoping to do one more, you know, so let's see what'll happen. And speaking of that, if you're looking for a new construction house in the Mint Hill area, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, just over 2,000 square feet, built in 2021, I may or may not have something for you. Single story ranch, I may or may not have something for you. I don't know how to wink, so that was my horrible attempt at trying to wink. Funny enough, I have a listing as well, and it's been on the market. We're priced good. We're the only like 4-bedroom in the entire neighborhood at that price. All the other houses that are priced similar, they're actually priced higher, 5,000 or 10,000 above us. But they're both 3-bedrooms. And literally I told my clients, I'm like, hey, a lot of people are waiting until after the election for one reason or another. And we just got a showing request, you know, for tomorrow. So I texted them today and I was like, hey, election's over. We just got a showing. So exciting stuff. Excited to see what happens. RJ, speaking of, after my wife and I finish our renovation for our house, and then once we refinance, I'm going to see, you know, if I can ask my lender and see if I can get the appraisal through you. But I don't know if they'll allow it, but, you know, I'll try, man. I know you've been watching my videos for a long time, and I always like to support people that support me. So I appreciate it. But hey, I'm not getting any questions right now. So guys, as always, you got all my contact information. Questions about neighborhoods, about the market in a specific neighborhood. If you want to dive into detail in a specific neighborhood, hey, what's the price per square foot? What are houses? What's the range of houses that they sell for in this neighborhood? How long do they stay on the market? Whatever the case is, whatever question you have, guys, call, text, or email me anytime. You guys know I'm always here for you, and I'll do anything I can to try to help you. But food, tomorrow closing, renovation starts next week. I may or may not make some videos in regards to our house and kind of keep you guys updated. We're super happy about it. We're stoked about it. Make sure you're subscribed, hit the like button, and I will catch you next week for the market report. Take care. Bye.